Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. I got guys an update on Hurricane Erin as well as the possibility for further development in the tropical Atlantic. I've got all the details coming right up. So, thank you for joining me here on this Monday evening. We have a lot to talk about in this video. We're going to be going over all the latest details and information on Hurricane Erin, as Erin is currently stalled out just a few miles north of the Bahamas. We're also talking about this second tropical wave that has emerged off the coast of Africa that is really catching all the headlines out in the weather community. So, as always, we're going to start out here by taking a look at your current satellite across the Atlantic. So, as right now, we have three things going on. One, we have Hurricane Erin out here, which is currently stalled out, again, dangerously close to the Bahamas, not quite over the Bahamas like Hurricane Dorian of 2019. Thankfully, Erin is still quite a few miles north of the Bahamas, but very, very close by. So, again, tropical storm force winds and tropical storm conditions are expected to continue across the southern half of the islands into the overnight hours. But other than Erin, we do have two tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa. We have our first one here, which is catching the most headlines here, catching the most attention. Very unorganized right now, but it is continuing to move its way across the tropical Atlantic, still fighting off some of this drier air nearby. And then we also do have this other wave coming off the coast of Africa that is just now being marked by the National Hurricane Center for possible development later on. So both of these waves will continue to move here across the Atlantic over the next couple of days, and they'll be moving in the generally the same direction, same area. So really beyond the day 6, day 7 kind of time frame, we really don't know for sure what's going to be happening. But in this update, we'll be giving you all the latest information from the models on what these two troublemakers may end up doing over the next couple of weeks. All right. So move on here to the National Hurricane Center home forecast page here. You can see, as always, we take a look at Erin first. Erin's staying right around Category 4 status with maximum sustained winds of 130 miles per hour, minimum central pressure at 947 millibars, and again, that slow northwest movement at 10 miles per hour, and really on satellite, it almost looks like Erin is stalled out, but this number has gone up pretty dramatically over the past couple of days, considering that, last update we had, Erin was still a very high-end Category 4 hurricane. Erin was even a Category 5 not too long ago, but Erin since then has weakened quite a bit after going through an eyewall replacement cycle, but she's about to make her turn north and up towards the East Coast over the next couple of days. And so obviously Erin will also make that turn out to sea eventually, but other than Erin, you can see we also do have this new area of possible formation for the next couple of days. I will say that this has really been increasing over the past couple of days, but what the National Hurricane Center is saying is that a tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is producing some disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions appear conducive for gradual development of the system, and a tropical depression could form towards the later end of this week. The system should move westward to west-northwestward at about 20 miles per hour across the central tropical Atlantic and approach the vicinity of the Leeward Islands on Friday. So that's the main tropical wave that we're watching for. We're actually going to be doing a separate part of the update towards the end, just giving you all the latest details on that. But we also do have our new tropical wave behind this one that now does also have a 10% chance of development. So the one in orange here, the one marked in orange, this one has a 60% chance of development through the next 7 days, and then our one behind it has a 10% chance. So we're going to be moving on here to the satellite close-up view of Hurricane Erin. Again, Erin being pretty much stalled out just north of the Bahamas, so pretty much what we got going on right here is the Bahamas just to the south of Erin. Again, very, very close to almost really the outer core. I mean, I would not rule out hurricane-force wind gusts being possible tonight across portions of the Bahamas, because, again, Erin's wind field begins to grow as the storm size grows tremendously. So really anywhere inside this black circle is where I really do think that we could see potential gusts up to hurricane force. But you can see Erin is still looking pretty healthy. You can actually see on the last frame or so a possible eye trying to open up there in the center of circulation. So you see these pinks and even these purples. This is where you're seeing very, very deep areas and amounts of convection. So this is a sign of a very healthy tropical system. Now you can see on the northern side, Erin is actually dealing with a little bit of wind shear, but that just huge amount of convection has really proven that Erin is much stronger and can handle all this wind shear. But again, Erin is still a Category 4 hurricane just to the north of the Bahamas, and will continue to move very slowly to the west and eventually to the northwest here over the next couple hours, and eventually as we get into tomorrow morning. Alright, so move on here to the official hurricane forecast cone. You can see Erin, again, her wind field is growing very, very it's gotten very, very large over the past couple of days, but you can see, again, that hurricane force wind field estimate is a little bit smaller than I think that we have now. I think Erin's hurricane force wind field is a little bit bigger at this point, but again, Erin is a major hurricane, and is expected to stay a major hurricane all the way until we get to about 2 a.m. Thursday. We still do have tropical storm warnings up for portions of the most southern Bahama Islands, as well as tropical storm watches for the central Bahamas. But during the early portion of this work week, we'll see Erin again make that curve to the north and eventually become just a few miles off the coast of North Carolina, in which we actually did finally get tropical storm watches for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. We actually also did get, I believe, evacuation orders for a pretty good chunk of this entire area, perhaps even the whole area. But again, those are tropical storm watches going out for the Outer Banks of North Carolina, because you're going to be talking about very significant wind gusts, potentially even some heavy rainfall, but definitely those huge waves and that storm surge potential. That's going to be the main hazard, I believe, with Erin. But if you take a look, this is another way of kind of looking at which areas are exactly under that tropical storm watch. So again, this is Erin down here. This is Erin's cone. You can see very, very close off the coast of the Carolinas, only about, let's see, we can even measure, I mean, look at that. Only 100 miles off the coast of North Carolina here. So that tropical storm watch will be going out for areas from Kitty Hawk down to Nag's Head, and down to Beaufort here, and Cape Hatteras definitely needs to be prepared here for potential significant impacts. So any of those city or town names that I mentioned, Avon, Ocracoke, you guys need to make sure that you guys are preparing for the impacts from Erin, because Erin's cone continues to shift west, but thankfully the tropical storm watch does not go too far inland, and it's only for about half the North Carolina coastline there. Alright, so we move back over here to the European model. We're going to be taking a look at our hour-by-hour forecast from Erin. So you can see Erin down here again as we're getting to tonight. Still a monstrous Category 4 hurricane. So the Euro is actually starting to overplay the system. It's starting to really go pretty nuts on the strength of Erin, but has Erin as a 926 millibar category, really as a Category 5, but Erin is a Category 4, so about 20 millibars off from what we have now. But regardless, the Euro has Erin continuing to move northwest. And I know this will probably scare a lot of people, because people on Twitter are going to be like, oh, Erin continues to move northwest towards the U.S. and isn't making that curve north yet. Erin is supposed to move northwest for quite a while, and I know it will seem pretty scary for folks on the East Coast. Like, why is it not moving away from us yet? Well, it's going to be moving towards us for at least, most of tomorrow into Wednesday, but it will make a very, very late but sharp curve out to sea, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, but as we get into Wednesday afternoon, this is midday Wednesday, we still have a very, very strong hurricane, again, approaching the southeast coastline. We can even turn this over to the southeast. And Erin continues to move north, and you actually do start to see some of those outer bands reaching the Carolina coastline. Again, I really would not rule out potential to see some significant, tropical downpours here with those outer bands across the Outer Banks, and I think that's one of the reasons why we did finally see those tropical storm watches get issued. So for those areas, especially under the tropical storm watches, heavy rain, gusty winds, and obviously those very, very large waves are what to be expected there. As we get into our Wednesday night. This is 11 p.m. Wednesday, and you can see Erin continues to move north and really just grazes the coastline before it finally shifts to the northeast and goes way out to sea. So really the worst of the impacts are going to come Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, and by the time you wake up on Thursday, Erin will be making her way already away from the East Coast, and all the impacts and the damages will be done. So, I mean, really nothing crazy is expected with direct impacts towards the East Coast, but the Euro has continued to shift farther west, and we look at the previous few runs, and you can see they're all farther out east. So, the shift continues, and, obviously there is the possibility for more tweaks in the forecast, but when you talk about a hurricane of this strength, this close to the East Coast, and, you're not even seeing the end of this tick here, everyone along the East Coast still needs to be watching this very closely, but mainly the Carolina coastline, because if anyone's going to get hit, it's going to be them. But Erin is getting dangerously close to the East Coast, and so now we are actually going to be talking about some possible direct impacts there, mainly to the Carolina coastline. But speaking of direct impacts, we take a look now at the GFS Ensemble 24-hour max wind gust mean here. So this is going to be giving us an idea of where all the GFS Ensemble members are pinpointing the strongest of wind gusts. And you can see Erin's wind field just is huge, with that hurricane force wind field being noted here in the gold and the brown shades. Look how wide this is, guys. This is extending all the way out to potentially the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I mean, the GFS Ensemble is going for potential hurricane force wind gusts across portions of the very Outer Banks of North Carolina. You're talking about 60, maybe even 70 mile an hour winds, so maybe not quite up to 74 miles an hour, but again, just off the coast, we could really not rule out a 70 or even 75 mile an hour wind gust being possible there. Alright, but Cape Hatteras and, all those city and town names we named earlier, especially under those tropical storm warnings, need to be prepared. So if you find yourself in one of these gold or even those light red shades, this is where you're going to really need to start preparing for strong wind gusts, because again, these winds are going to be capable of producing localized power outages, but definitely some minor tree damage. That's going to be a possibility, so do not let your guard down if you are on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Even up to the Virginia coastline, really would not rule out wind gusts up to potentially 50 miles per hour, but all the way up the East Coast, from really South Carolina through the Mid-Atlantic and even into southern New England, we're talking about wind gusts of 20, 30, maybe even as high as 40 miles an hour, just because of how large Erin's wind field will actually be. But even all the way up to southern New England, I mean, Erin's going to be moving pretty much from here to here. So, I mean, if you're talking about wind gusts still up to 40 miles an hour on the southern New England coastline, that just shows you that Erin's wind field is going to grow very significantly. So, all the way up to the Jersey coastline, Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Southern Mass, Delmarva, Virginia, and all the way down to the North Carolina coastline, obviously. We're talking about up to 40, maybe even 50 mile an hour winds, with the max being for the Outer Banks here, with wind gusts of potentially of up to 70 miles per hour. Alright, so we move over here to our peak storm surge forecast. This is an interesting graphic to look at, considering that we just did get those tropical storm watches, so that will activate the National Hurricane Center to begin issuing all these different graphics with the official forecasts for those areas under the tropical storm watches. And what they're going for here across the Carolina coastline is about 2 to 4 feet of storm surge, which may sound pretty minor, but you're talking about standing water, up to 4 feet of standing water on roadways. So coastal communities and, coastal areas will definitely have the threat to become inundated with multiple feet of water, because again, the storm surge is going to be a huge problem with those very, very strong and very, very tall waves. But you can see 1 to 3 feet of storm surge is expected from the Santee or Santee River all the way out to Cape Lookout, and then from Cape Lookout to Duck, we are expecting about 2 to 4 feet of storm surge, and then all the way up towards Paramore Island in southern Delaware is where, or excuse me, Maryland is where we're going to be talking about up to 3 feet of storm surge. So 1 to 3 feet going out for the South Santee River towards the Neuse Bay rivers and Pamlico and Pungo rivers there in North Carolina and South Carolina. So if you do find yourself, especially in the yellow zone here, where we're talking about up to 4 feet of storm surge, this is where you're gonna have to start preparing if you are on the coastal waters there, or the coastal communities, because that's where we have the most confidence in the worst coastal conditions, and obviously the most rough seas and the worst storm surge and the highest of waves. So speaking of the high waves, we take a look now at the GFS. We're watching the simulated significant height for our waves here, and you can see already as we get into Wednesday, or I guess this should be Tuesday night, so tomorrow night, we're already going to start to see huge waves of up to 9, maybe even 10 feet start to batter the southeast coastline. So from Florida all the way up to North Carolina, we're talking about up to 10-foot waves by Wednesday. And as we get into Thursday, this is going to be when Erin makes her closest approach to the East Coast. We're talking about waves of up to 20 feet out here on the Carolina coastline. So wherever you see these dark reds and even these purples, this is where, once again, you're talking about up to 23, maybe even 25-foot waves. Is this overdone? It's very possible, but I mean, this is a very, very concerning look, especially for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So if you are, again, on these coastal communities, this is why there was a evacuation order issued. If you are under that evacuation order, get out right now, because these waves are going to be very, very capable of completely inundating and flooding out coastal communities, cities, and towns. So you really want to make sure that you are getting yourself to a much more safer place. But that's not all with Erin. You can see all the way up the East Coast, we're talking about similar wave heights. Again, up towards the up to the New Jersey coastline, southern New England, and as well as the entire New England coastline. We're talking about waves of up to 15 feet being possible. So anywhere where you see these dark reds, these purples, these oranges, this is where you're talking about waves in excess of 10 feet high. So again, this is going to be posing a threat to significant coastal flooding and very dangerous rip currents. So if you are on the East Coast, it may seem like a sunny day, and you may think, how in the world is there a hurricane so close? Well, it turns out there is no hurricane close by, but it's just that the fact that the wind field is so large that it's able to push all of this water towards the coastline. So sailors, well-trained swimmers, surfers, anybody are advised not to go on the waters during the middle portion of this week up and down the East Coast, because again, this is going to be a very significant and dangerous day for coastal flooding. But you can see, especially towards the southern New England coastline, we're talking about similar ways to potentially the Carolina coastline there. So very, very dangerous day or week, I should say, of rip currents and very, very rough seas. It is ahead of us. But we move on here to, again, your rip current risk from the National Hurricane Center. So if you take a look at tomorrow's rip current risk mainly, you can see we have a high risk going all the way out from really southern New England coastline down towards Delaware, Delmarva, North Carolina, South Carolina, really the entire East Coast, basically from southern New England down to Florida is under the gun for significant rip currents as Erin continues to make her approach towards the Carolina coastline. But this is going to be just one of many days where we're talking about a significant coastal flooding threat. And if we were to look at days beyond this, which we unfortunately don't have, there would be most likely a high risk from now to about Thursday and potentially even Friday. So again, all through this week, you really need to make sure that you are staying off the water, especially if in this high risk. But a high risk of rip currents means that life-threatening rip currents are likely. Swimming conditions are unsafe for all levels of swimmers, so surfers, swimmers, sailors, stay out of the water. Always follow advice from the local beach patrol and flag warning systems. Alright, so that goes out for pretty much the entire East Coast here as we get into, obviously, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, and even really into Friday. We're talking about a very dangerous and significant threat for rip currents there. Alright, so we move over here to now. We're going to go back to the GFS. We're going to be taking a look at this next tropical wave that we watched on the National Hurricane Center forecast homepage, where, again, it is getting the attention of many weather enthusiasts and content creators. There's a lot of hype going around. Is this going to be the major hurricane slab of the year? We'll find out. So we take a look here at the GFS. We're going to be looking at the GFS and eventually comparing the GFS and the European ensemble. That's what we're going to be doing today. This is going to be a no hype, as accurate as possible forecasts for you guys. So we're not going to be talking about the GFS 300 hours out. But you take a look at the simulated GFS. Again, we're getting into about 6-7 days out, more like 5-6 days out, but we're getting into Saturday the 23rd here. You can see our tropical wave is located right down here into the Southwest Atlantic. It's pretty much just this green blob with these few these few isobars, these lines going through it, but it is not even popping off low pressure signature yet on the GFS. So the GFS wants very late strengthening with this storm, and it continues to kind of just chug here across the Southwest Atlantic, and finally does pop off that low pressure system signature right around the 25th, which is about 170 hours out. So again, not too far out yet, and we actually do see the storm become at least a tropical depression and eventually a tropical storm here just off the coast of the southeast, and then it really does strengthen just off the coast of the southeast, really by the 27th, which is about a week out from Wednesday here. And it does become a hurricane and pretty much rapidly intensifies and becomes a pretty stout and very, condensed and very small hurricane. But it eventually strengthens as it moves up the East Coast and makes a couple landfalls there on its way up the East Coast, and then really we're getting into La La Land once we get past the 240-hour mark. Really past here is where things get a little wonky. So do not tell your cousin's cat's dog sister's brother that we are going to get a 949 millibar Category 4 hurricane to make a landfall on the Carolina coastline on August 28th at 2 p.m. That is not going to happen, and I'll show you why. You think, well, if the model is showing it, then obviously that's going to happen. Look at the previous runs. Every single run is different. So when you're this far out, model agreement is going to be very, very unorganized. There's going to be little to none model agreement, and every run switches. So you'll have one run. Well, obviously the GFS shows a Category 5 in the Gulf. The next run has nothing. Then the next run has a completely different system developing in a completely different place. That's why we only need to talk about a signal rather than a forecast. So when you're talking about this far out, again, it's just a signal that we will see that tropical wave continue to move across the Southwest Atlantic and potentially strengthen into a named storm somewhere in here. That's a pretty big area. That's a lot of land to cover. So again, this is just telling us that we're going to have to continue to watch this for the next week or so until we get a good idea of where it's going to go and how strong it's going to get. But we take a look here now at the GFS ensemble. This is going to be giving us our spaghetti plots, where we're looking at which of the members actually does support the signal for some of these lows to develop, and it actually does. Quite a few members show a signal for a low pressure system to develop, and actually you do see quite a few strong systems developing from these members, but again, just about 15 members in here, 15 low pressure signatures you see. So there's a pretty decent signal in the GFS considering how far out we were, how far out we are, but again, most of them end up somewhere here in the Southwest Atlantic or potentially into the Gulf, so we really don't know where it's going to end up from there, but really once we kind of continue to go forward in time, we'll get a better idea of where exactly it will go. And finally, for the last part of the update, we now look at the European ensemble, and it does show a similar kind of idea where we actually do get a few more members that do bring this into a similar region. Again, a few of them going into the Gulf, a few of them going into the Southwest Atlantic, and a lot of them becoming much more stronger systems. So it looks like another possible named storm is on the horizon, and we're going to have to continue to talk about it over the next couple of days. Alright, so that's going to be it for today's update. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed your day. Make sure you are staying safe out there, especially if you are along the East Coast or even into the Carolinas, because again, Hurricane Erin, even though it may not make direct impacts to all of the East Coast, it's definitely going to pack a punch for those coastal communities, alright? So, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video.